Illinois going out and winning at Ohio State. For my money, they are a lock. They're basically a lock for the.
They were a lock. They were already a lock.
Well, no, they weren't a lock because if Ohio State wins that game and Ohio State's profile is a lot better than you give it credit for. That would have been their third top 10 win. And if Ohio State wins that game and makes a run of the Big Ten tournament and Illinois gets knocked out early, then there's a conversation that can be had. But Illinois now, I don't think that there's any way that it can happen, barring like Ohio State winning the Big Ten tournament and beating Illinois and Michigan en route to it. So, and I don't expect that to happen because of what I'm about to say now. When Iowa went down, I was expecting it to be like Adam Miller or DeMonte Williams or the Grandison kid, like one of those two stepping up and really kind of taking things over. But it wasn't. It was Andre Curbelo, and he's been since Iowa went down with his injury in the 4 games. He's averaged 15.8 points, 7.5 boards, and 4.8 assists. He's only had 4 turnovers combined in the last 2 games. And that's significant because I think it takes pressure off of Ayo to have to be the full-time creator, right? Like there's, as talented as Ayo is, there is a little bit of a limitation in his game when it comes to just being, like if defenses are focused on him, he is a little bit right-hand dominant and he doesn't quite have a great jump shot. And if you can really load up on that side of the floor, you can limit some of the things that he does. We saw Maryland do that earlier this season. It's part of the reason why they had some struggle. Now that Andre is playing the way that he's playing, I'm going to take you through a list, okay? Since 2010, there have only been 2 teams that didn't win the national title with 2 point guards. One of them was 2012 Kentucky that only had Marquise Teague, but they happened to have the top 2 picks in the draft, including Anthony Davis, who might have been the best college basketball player of the decade. Number 2 on that list was Villanova in 2018, who had National Player of the Year Jalen Brunson at the point, and like 3 wings that could all kind of be classified as like secondary playmakers. You know, Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, all these guys are able to play off the bounce and do stuff that like kind of a point guard could do. So I think that one's got a little bit of an asterisk. Beyond that, listen to this. 2010 Duke had Nolan Smith and John Shire. 2011 UConn, Kemba Walker, Shabazz Napier. 2013 Louisville, Peyton Siva, Russ Smith. 2014 UConn, Shabazz Napier, Ryan Boatwright. 2015 Duke, Tyus Jones, Quinn Cook. 2016 Villanova, Ryan Arcidiacono, Jalen Brunson. 2017 UNC, they had Joel Berry, Theo Pinson, and Nate Britt. And yes, I will qualify Theo Pinson as a point guard. He played the point in the half court in that offense. And 2019 Virginia, Kihei Clark, and Ty Jerome. Now, we got 2 point guards on Illinois' roster.
Yeah,
we got a big guy that's an absolute monster.
I like your train of thought here. I like it, and I think more people should pay attention to it. It's the first thing I look for, Rob, before the start of the season when picking teams that can win a national title now, is you better have good point guard play, and you kind of need 2. You kind of need 2 at this point to have a really good shot at winning 6 straight. And you know who has 2? Who's got the best tandem of point guards in the country?
It's Baylor.
Well, actually, all right, we can make an argument in all this. It is, you're right, it's Baylor. And Gonzaga is not far behind, and Illinois got it. Like, those 3 are clear as day, aren't they?
There's the dings, baby. It's been a while. We haven't had the ding in a while.
No, don't yell at me. I had to get things up here this morning.
I'm fired up. We haven't gotten a ding in a while. This is great. Let's go. We got a ding.
So,
but yeah, you're right.
It's 2
point guards, and that's one of the reasons why with Michigan I was a little bit slower to get on the bandwagon is because of that point guard play. But that's just
like Michigan State. Like you looked before the season and you were like, Michigan State doesn't have one. Kentucky, I thought Askew would be better, but after the first week or 2, we were like, all right, Askew's not ready. You know, like you could eliminate teams. I mean, honestly, it's pretty easy to start eliminating teams. People are now putting in the chat, ding, ding. Nice.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. Who else? Give me another team in the top 10. Because, again, you got Baylor, you got Gonzaga, you got Illinois. Those are 3. Who else has multiple point guards, like high-level point guards in the top 10 right now?
I think that you can make the argument that Alabama can play that way, although I don't think that I would put their guards in the same class as the other guards. Like they can roll 2 point guards out there, and they do a lot of 2 point guard looks.
Not high level.
They're not in the same conversation. Yeah, exactly.
Who?
I mean, no one really. Iowa doesn't really play with Toussaint and Bohanna together all that much. Houston, maybe you can kind of make the argument, but like they mostly have a bunch of like they're just loaded with a bunch of combo scoring guards, and so I don't know if I'd put them in that conversation. Villanova without Justin Moore has like no point guards. They got another RCB Atheno.
Right. People got upset at me yesterday when I was like, basically like throw Villanova out of the equation for Final Four. They were like, well, how could you take that away from that game? And I'm like, well, they couldn't score, and rightfully so. I mean, you took away their starting point guard, really their only point guard, and then the guy who was supposed to kind of plug in as a point guard, Justin Moore, who's not a point guard, and you took him out of the lineup too. Like, Villanova's done. Like, stick a fork in him to get to the Final Four, in my opinion.
Yeah. There was one interesting shout in the chat. It was from Nicholas Diorio. I hope I pronounced your name right. Texas has a couple point guards.
They do. Yeah, they do. I mean, Matt Coleman's obviously their primary, and they've got a couple other guys who can make plays that aren't really true.
But Andrew Jones was a lead guard coming up. Courtney Ramey was a lead guard coming up, and they've kind of adapted into a role.
More scorers. They're more wing for me.
But it's like the same thing. Like Joel Berry was a point guard that was adapted into a wing when he got to North Carolina. Like I will go to my grave saying that he was their scoring guard. He might have brought the ball up, but he was their scoring guard in the half court.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. I would just say, to me, Baylor, Gonzaga, Illinois are the three.
Oh yeah, it's a clear cut top.
Stand out, right?